What's up, hockey fans, and welcome back to the Good Goal Podcast, episode 42. On your screen is Matt Tiart. He is in Virginia.
Fishersville, Virginia. Yep.
And we're here in Foxford, Massachusetts. It's me, Christian Brady, and special guest, winner of the Good Goal Podcast, Fantasy Hockey League.
Inaugural.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Yeah. I know you've been excited about this. We were excited to have, when we first created the league, we were like, why don't we just offer a guest on the show? Because one of us is going to win, and it's not going to end up mattering. But then I think we finished dead last and second to dead last. So.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a flawed system because by week 2, I just didn't care. And then Mr. Brady and my brother were like the only ones who were serious about it, and they were in the finals. So.
Actually, both your brothers were really good.
Nick was pretty good, too.
Yeah, Nick beat me head-to-head. He's the only one who beat me head-to-head like 2 out of 3 or something. He had my number.
Props to them. They did well. So.
I'm going out to Arizona next Sunday, so I'll hear all about it, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so. All right. Should we do a sponsor? Oh, I got a sponsor. I looked up the odds for like who's going to win the cup, who's going to win the divisions.
Cutting edge, man.
MGM sponsor us.
Yep. They're about to blow up too, so invest in them too.
Yeah.
Legal gambling all over.
Although I'm invested in crypto, and I woke up this morning to see an $1,100 downslide.
Yeah, so, you had made so much money. He invested. There's this thing called Dogecoin, which started at less than a cent, and is now. It was at 39 cents at one point. It's like back to 28.
It's like 27. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still way up, huh?
He's still way.
Yeah, I mean, I invested at 1.1 cents. So
that's pretty good.
Also, I don't know if you've seen it, but
yeah,
it is
very nice.
Yeah. The ring wasn't enough. I had to get it on my body forever.
He got it like the week before I left, and when he got back, he was just like, he would see me be like, oh, there was still the plastic film on it. And he just
we played Walker, and I'm on hole 8. Like, come on.
Is that why Christian beat you that day?
Yeah, of course.
That was the only time. That was the only time
I knew there had to be a good reason. Then.
Well, so we pull up to hole 1, and for the other 4 listeners, we pull up to hole 1. I'm like flipping out. Like, I don't want to play with these other people. Like, are they going to play? Are they going to off? Like, we're going to have to play these guys. And what? My dad's calling me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen. I knew my dad was going to call.
Of course.
So I'm like, Dad, I'm doing the pod. So we step on the tee box. It's like, hi, I'm Christian. Hi, I'm Matt. You guys want to play some Captain's Choice? Because we pull up and Christian's like, this never happened.
So
no one ever.
He knows when you play with other people. I've played probably 150 rounds with other people that I don't know. Never once have they offered to play against me.
Right.
Like that's not what happens in golf. I don't know if you are convinced of that yet, because we always play alone. Because we play at like 4:30 in the afternoon. We finish in like 2.5 hours every time. So there's never anyone else there. And this time we're paired up with people, and he's pulling up. He's like, dude, I don't want to play. These guys are going to kick us. These guys are going to kill us. And I go, it's not like that. Like, they're not going to want to play against you. And literally the first thing they say to us is like, so what do you guys want to do for the match? We're like,
haven't even finished introductions. Hi, I'm Matt. Hi, you guys want to play Captain's?
I don't think that's ever happened to me all the time.
No.
Not with strangers, but people you know. But.
Well, so it was a dad-son duo. They were weird, by the way.
Yeah.
And we par 1, we birdie 2, and they just stopped keeping score.
Yeah, they stopped that. They were, for the first couple holes, they were keeping it like hard. Because I blasted my drive right. But because we were playing up tees, it was further than I'm usually at. And it's like open over there. So I hit a 7-iron to 10 feet for eagle on the first hole. And they're like, what did we agree to? Like, we just saw him pump it into the woods. We thought we were playing these 2 scrubs.
Although I did birdie 2. He was like, if you miss this, it's going to cost us our friendship. I was like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. All right, let's get to some hockey.
All right, we'll start with the suspension. Panthers forward Sam Bennett suspended 1 game for boarding Blake Coleman on Sunday. I don't have many thoughts on this. Seemed fair. I don't like suspensions, but like he hit him pretty hard in the back. It's weird because in the playoffs, especially, there's a larger threshold for boarding, particularly because in battles in the corners or whatever, you can push a guy up against the wall. If it's not too violent, they're not going to call it. Whereas in the regular season, they're going to call it most of the time. But this was just, I mean, it could have easily been called charging. They called it boarding, but it was both, and I think that's why there's a suspension.
Yeah, ever since that moment in the game, it set the tone for the entire series. These teams all of a sudden hate each other. The Battle of Florida is just as intense as the Battle of Alberta.
It's been awesome.
It's insane.
It's going to be awesome too. Even though it's 2-0, that doesn't tell the story of the series. It's been dead.
No. And Florida won the regular season series, so it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from this.
Yeah. Was Coleman injured?
No, he played. He played the rest of the game.
Fine. Still suspended.
But again, they could have called it cross-checking, charging, or boarding. So.
And he's back for game 3. So.
Yeah. So
it's not like it's one of their. It's not like it's Keith Yandel missing a game.
We're talking about we're talking about 2 depth centers here, which centers are extremely important, but it's not like exactly. Yeah, if you board a Kucherov, we might be talking about a couple more games, but
yeah.
Okay, Pierre-Luc Dubois and Nikolai Ehlers are out for Winnipeg. Game 1 is tonight versus Edmonton. Huge losses for those two. Pierre-Luc Dubois obviously was acquired over the regular season right before the deadline for best player in the league, Patrick Laine.
Yeah, best scorer in the league, Patrick Laine. Christian's favorite player. Yeah. I'm gonna get you. That's what I know. What I'm getting you for your birthday now. It's a signed Laine jersey.
yeah. If those exist, dude. He's no time to sign. The only thing he does is go to practice and not try, and then play Fortnite. So I don't think he signs anything.
I drafted him as soon as he was available in the fantasy league. Just so I could rub it in on Christian, and unfortunately, I proved Christian right. He did nothing.
Like Christian, he has certain guys he hates, and I'm big fans of those guys. Pat Maroon is like my favorite player that's not a Cap.
You see this is as good a time as any. You see his kindergarten playground taunts that he was doing?
Yes.
He's literally doing it. He's calling him a chicken. Oh my God. And his hair is gross. His hair is disgusting. I can't stand him like that.
What the hell?
All right.
Anyway, Edmonton's gonna win this year. To me, I think Edmonton's gonna win the series handily. So
those two guys are day to day, by the way, and it's hard to count Winnipeg out, which I think I had been getting to game 7. I'll check right now. I did, only because of Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah.
So as long as he's not hurt, they have a chance in any game because he's on fire the same way that Vasilevsky's on fire. Those are the 2 best goalies in the league in my mind. I don't know if there's much debate about that.
Braden Holtby.
Yeah, Braden Holtby. He's not even a starter anymore. All right, Evgeny Malkin made the trip to Long Island after missing the last couple of weeks of the regular season and the first 2 games of this series. There's no word on whether he'll play tomorrow, but he is in New York, so I assume he'll at least be in game 4.
Yeah. Good luck to New York if he comes back.
Yeah.
They've been winning. Malkin is a guy who wins board battles pretty easily. And that's been one of New York's struggles in this series. And then also on the penalty kill, which, as we all know, Malkin is deadly on the power play. So good luck to New York if he can be 100%
before the series is over. Is he out with the knee?
I think it is a knee. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Always a question.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I lost it. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, if he comes back, hopefully it's not too early and he doesn't get re-injured. But
I think they win this series. They win the series without him. So
I think so too. At this point in the series, I feel confident in saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 teams experienced multiple false positive COVID tests last night. One of them is the Blues. They had, I don't want to make up a number, but they said they had multiple discrepancies because they test once and it'd be positive and test again and it'd be negative. So I saw a report by Pierre LeBrun that this might affect multiple leagues because they're all getting their COVID testing from the same, agency or whatever. So apparently the tests are faulty right now. All teams as of now are expected to play without any guys on the COVID list, which I don't want to see any guys miss for COVID. That would be terrible.
Okay, so I have 2 thoughts. One, this already happened.
Yeah.
Like every big league in America was using this testing site in New Jersey, and they had a bunch of false positives.
Mm-hmm.
these are the richest organizations to ever walk the earth, and you can't get a right test. So that's my first thought. And my second thought is we have vaccine, like 60 million people have vaccines in this country. Why are we like, one, why are we testing? And two, why doesn't everyone just get vaccinated?
I think most players are vaccinated.
So whatever.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was different when the Baylor women's head coach said it 3 months ago that they should be playing when they have COVID. It's a completely different situation at this point where it just doesn't seem like it's worth having guys. I mean, obviously the guy's COVID, you don't want to give it to every guy.
I mean, from everything we've seen the past couple months, like you said, the Baylor coach saying we're in the Final Four, let's just not test.
Yeah,
that's a totally different thing than we have proof that all 23 skaters have gotten both vaccinations, and the CDC has already said no mask for people who are vaccinated. It can't be transmissible if you are vaccinated. So, I mean, like I said, these are the richest people in the world. Why,
how do they not?
Why is
the university is a better testing program than
yes.
How's that possible?
CDC also says you don't need to test if you're vaccinated and you're symptom-free. So,
So, yeah, this shouldn't be an issue, but it is.
And last year, I'm not trying to take any credit away from the NHL because last year the bubble was chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. But it's weird to me that we still have discrepancies almost 2 years into a pandemic when vaccines have already been, I mean, we got 60, 70 million people already vaccinated.
Right.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
So hopefully it doesn't seem like it's going to make too big of an impact. Hopefully it doesn't at all. All of those players were retested today, and I haven't heard that any of them were actually positive. So
okay,
it's good news.
Yeah, but instead of getting, I guess I get it. If someone hasn't gotten the vaccine yet, why don't they just get the vaccine instead of continuously getting tested? But if say I'm Ovechkin and I haven't gotten a vaccine and I get the Johnson & Johnson and I have a 104 fever in game 7, I mean, that's a totally different story. But at what cost are you thinking about getting COVID because you're traveling?
Right.
So,
yeah, it's a weird situation, but
yeah,
whatever. We'll leave it at that. Hopefully nobody gets COVID.
Yeah.
Has to ruin any series. All right. Craig Anderson will start game 3 tonight. That was made official this morning. Vitek Vanacek is still day-to-day, and Samsonov is not in the lineup again after being activated before game 2. Apparently, he's not back into shape. He doesn't look good in practice, something like that. Who knows what's the problem with that, but he already had COVID, so I don't know what he's doing on the COVID list.
Yeah, so did Kuzi.
Yeah.
So did Anderson's AARP meeting get canceled? He's able to go.
Dude, he turns 40 on Friday.
I
mean, so yeah, I mean, we can get into that when we talk about the series, but some of the goals to me, like y'all's second goal on Monday was just, he wasn't quick enough. And I texted my dad, I'm like, this is the 40-year-old goalie. Like, that's the problem.
Right.
But at what point do you say someone who has been there, done that? I mean, he was in the Eastern Conference Finals 3 years ago against Pittsburgh versus our now fourth goalie, Phoenix Copley, who's like never played an NHL game. Like, where's the line?
Yeah.
So, and we'll get into that more.
You have to imagine that Laviolette is evaluating Samsonov hard because if he were ready to go, he'd be in.
Yeah.
But he just
although Craig Anderson's played well.
He has a good playoff record too. Good playoff.
And you're right. You can't fault him on any of the goals, but a couple of them, and even some of the saves, it's just like you can tell this guy doesn't have it as much.
As some of the shots that have gone in, you look at and you're like, Ottawa Craig Anderson saves this.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So his record in the playoffs when he faces 40 shots or more is like 9-3.
They're all against us too.
But his record the next game is like 3-9. So it's like he's tired if he doesn't recover well from it, you know.
And then also being 40 is another factor to throw in there.
Which he was not 40 when that stat was made.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about that again when we get to the Bruins and Capitals at the end.
Which we're obviously going to do last for everybody that is watching.
But we'll start with the last series to begin, which will begin on Thursday at 7:30. That's Toronto versus Montreal, which is arguably the most exciting series in the playoffs. They've met once in the playoffs, I think, in the last like 30 years or something like that, because Canadian teams there's typically not more than one Canadian team in the playoffs after the first round. And sometimes there's only one total.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a lot of fun because they're the two most storied franchises in the league as far as
historic
passion. Yeah, historic rivalry.
When you think hockey, you think Montreal and Toronto.
Exactly.
And if you don't know what you're talking about. But
it's the Hall of Fame, birthplace of hockey versus, the greatest franchise maybe in the history of sports. So, although they don't beat the Bruins.
Well, where's the Hall of Fame? Toronto?
Yeah.
Well, the birthplace of the Stanley Cup is Montreal. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
I did a paper on it. Lord Stanley.
Okay, the next series begins tonight at 9, which is approximately 3 hours after the regular season ends in that division. Edmonton versus Winnipeg, game 1 tonight at 9, like I said. That's going to be a fun series. Edmonton's either going to steamroll them or we're going to have 6 or 7 low-scoring games. And it ends up being even, But I don't see a scenario in which Winnipeg wins the series.
Okay, so we have the guy who scored 105 points in 56 games, who's head and shoulders better than everyone else in that division. I mean, Matthews can make an argument, but he's not the complete player that McDavid is.
Head and shoulders again above the second best player in the league, who is on his second,
who is his teammate. Yeah,
who are on the same power team.
So,
right. Crazy.
If you're a betting man, which I am, Edmonton to come out of this division is plus 325. So it's pretty good odds. Yeah.
Davis only had one chance in the playoffs, and he did not look good, but it was in the bubble.
It was in the bubble. Toronto's minus 150 to be in the Final Four, which is actually pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Well, since your dad's here, let's get his thoughts because we didn't get him last week.
Sure.
Toronto, Montreal. Who do you have winning the series and in how many games?
I got Toronto winning it in 6.
Okay. You want to add it to the bottom, Christian?
Yeah, I think that's if you're evaluating based on how their regular seasons went, I think that's accurate. Yeah. However, who's better in the playoffs? We don't know with Montreal. None of them have really ever been in the playoffs. And Toronto is typically bad.
They are usually bad, especially their first round.
So the X factor to me is goaltending. It always is in the playoffs. You have to have a solid goaltender to take it all the way. I mean, you're talking about a top 5 goalie of all time for Montreal.
But not this year.
However, not this year, but also Jack Campbell has lost. I don't know what it was, but at one point he was 11-0 in his this season.
Crazy.
11-0-0.
Another fantasy.
Is Jack Campbell getting the start?
He is.
Yes.
Okay, Toronto's winning the series because if it were Anderson, I would say I might go with Carey Price.
Yeah.
But that's a totally different story.
It's hard to pick against him. Right?
It's funny. Yeah. He sat and then came back and lost like 2 or 3 in a row, Campbell. And then after that, he was back to his old self, young self. But I agree. Price is the man, but not of late.
Although a factor to throw in is Price has always played 50 games a year because he's never had a backup. He's well rested this year.
Right.
So, although he is getting up there in age, but so is Craig Anderson. All right, Edmonton, Winnipeg. We talked about that. That's starting tonight. Who you got? How many games?
Edmonton all the way. I mean, maybe 5.
Nice. I think that's fair. Again, I think we'll see some close games where it's obvious that Connor Hellebuck's the only reason they're in it. But I don't see him stealing 4 games in this series. I don't think that.
And I think memory serves head-to-head, Edmonton and Winnipeg's number.
I think you're right about that.
Okay, so just to throw in a little note, we all picked Edmonton and we all picked Toronto, so that absolutely means Montreal's winning in 4 and the Jets are winning in 5.
I'm undefeated on picks,
It's true.
And I don't have to come back and answer to this.
Yeah,
it's great.
Well, we'll remind you. You only get to pick 2 series because the other one's already started. So
we'll let him pick. They won't be official, but we'll let him pick.
Okay. All right, we'll get into Colorado and St. Louis. Game 1. was won by Colorado. There was an empty net goal, so it's really a 3-1 game. Bennington stood on his head. He was a hero in a game that he lost. He had 46 saves on 50 shots. McKinnon had 2 goals and an assist. One of those is the empty netter. Cale Makar had a beautiful opening goal.
Oh, dude.
He danced around a shot block attempt and sniped. He's incredible. He's a top 10. Do you want to start your franchise with this guy right now? He has to be with his age and how he is.
So I listened to the radio call of that game, and of course the Colorado guy. Anytime McKinnon or Makar scores, it's just goosebumps. All hail Cale is what he says.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that goal was sick.
So game 2 is tonight at 10:30. I don't see this being a good series after that first game. It was dominated from start to finish. Bennington was the only reason they had a shot.
If Bennington can steal one in Colorado, we might have a conversation.
Okay.
If Colorado wins tonight, then to me it's a wrap. Grubauer's played well too. So
let's talk about Ryan O'Reilly before the series, saying, "How do you match up with Colorado?" He says, "They're a good team. We're gonna have fun and we're gonna beat them." That's a confidence you have to have. It's a little too confident for a team that is clearly inferior.
This is the same Ryan O'Reilly that stole the Conn Smythe from Bennington.
Yep.
Okay.
That was crazy. I can't believe that. Still can't believe that.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, Dad. What's your pick on this? Colorado leads 1-0.
Colorado in 5. I think St. Louis wins one at home.
Agreed.
Fair enough. All right, Vegas, Minnesota tied at 1 apiece. We started talking about it before the pod, and I'm like, no, we got some good content here. Let's wait until we start recording. Minnesota won game 1, overtime, 1-0. Cam Talbot played out of his freaking mind. And to me, Minnesota just dominated from start to finish this game. And then in game 2, Vegas wins 3-1 on the scoreboard. But like you said, it seemed like Minnesota was the better team.
They outshot them pretty significantly.
It'll be interesting to see going back to Minnesota tomorrow if they can keep this up, because the way they've been playing at home, it's going to be 3-1 headed back to Vegas.
Yeah, game 2 was last night, and it was 0-0 after the first period, and I was like, oh my God, it's going to happen again. It didn't, but part of me wishes it did. That first game on Sunday was so fun to watch. I mean, there were more chances than the Bruins-Caps games, in which there was 7 goals in the first, or 5 goals in the first game, and 7 goals in the second one. And it felt like there were way more chances. Just both goalies stood on their heads. Fleury deserves so much credit for the way he played in that game. The one goal was a lucky bounce. God, Fleury's so good in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Crazy that, and this has happened 2 years in a row now, where we're going into the playoffs like, I don't know, who do you start? Do you start Fleury or you start Leonard? It's such an obvious choice. Yeah. Fleury is. Yeah. And going forward, you absolutely have to protect Fleury if you're Vegas this summer. You can't afford to lose him with how good he is in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's true. The question, I mean, he's getting older. So
he is
do you go with age, or do you go with this guy who literally in your first year took you to the final?
Right.
Well, Leonard isn't 25. I think he's 30, 31. Whereas Fleury's 34, turning 35 or something like that. So
4 years as a goalie. I mean,
yeah, it is a lot.
You guys know you have a goalie in the family.
We have 2 goalies in the family.
Two goalies in the family.
Which one's better? It's a little more than 4 years, but
yeah, right. To me, I'm going with Vegas. I know that he. I'm not betting against Fleury. Just not betting against it. And I would say that Talbot. I'm not going to say it's a flash in the pan, but can he sustain that for a 7-game series? I don't think so. But I think it's going 7. But I don't think Talbot's going to stand in his head.
Matt, why don't you and I pick games for this series since we didn't before?
Okay. Well, if we go back to Colorado, I got Colorado in 5. I agree with your dad. I think St. Louis is good enough to steal 1, but I mean, the Avs have so much firepower. Grubauer's playing lights out. They're the favorite to win the cup at plus 325. And to me, I agree with that. So
I'm going to say Avs in 6.
Okay.
I think St. Louis wins game 3 and 5
on the road.
And then See, this one's tough because if I had the pick after 3 games, I might actually lean towards Minnesota the way they played game 1 and 2.
I am struggling with this one. Yeah.
So I have to stick with Vegas. I'm gonna go 7, just because it gives me a little wiggle room.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it's gonna come down to how well Fleury's playing, and if it goes 7, he's not losing. So he has 3 cups. Like, he's not gonna lose.
Right.
I'm gonna ride Fleury. I'm gonna say Vegas in 6.
Okay.
It's fair.
All right. Let's move on to the next series.
Hockey in the South.
Yep.
Crazy.
By the way, Vegas, Minnesota, game 3 on Thursday at 9:30. Okay, hockey in the South.
Good hockey in the South.
Very good hockey in the South with full arenas, which is awesome. The Carolina Arena has 12,000 of 19,000 in there, and it's rocking. It's awesome. And I assume Nashville, when they get back there, is going to be more of the same. Game 1 was 5-2. It was all Carolina. There was an empty net goal. Jordan Stahl, coming out of the grave, to score 2 goals. I didn't watch much of this game. It wasn't very close. Nashville scored the first goal, but it was all Carolina from that point on.
I saw highlights, and physical is probably the one word that comes to mind. Carolina is just so much better. I think Nashville, they're going to have to, in the offseason, because there's no way they win the cup. I will go on record saying that. They're going to have some big questions, because it just seems like they're not, I don't know what the word, like, they're treading water. They're making it to the playoffs, but it's never like, oh, this is a team that could win the cup. This is it. And I don't know what the questions that need to be asked are, but
a month ago they were pretty decently out of the playoff race.
Yeah.
And they won 3 or 4 games heading into the deadline. Whereas if they lost 3 out of 4 of those, they would have sold half the team, I think.
Like, if I look at the playoffs as a whole, Montreal, Winnipeg, and Nashville, those are probably the 3 that I would say can't win the cup. Everyone else, if they won the cup, I'd say I can see it. So it'll be interesting to see what they can put on the board against Carolina, but Carolina's just so much better.
Yeah, we'll check in on our picks there. I had Carolina in 7. You had Carolina in 5. Obviously, either's still on the board, but you look pretty good right about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's your pick for the Carolina?
I'm gonna be bold, man. I'm gonna say they're gonna sweep.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go with Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah. When he said that, I'm like, wait,
I was like,
what?
This is wrong.
No, Carolina in 4.
I think if it's gonna be a sweep, that seems like a pretty good.
Yeah. We got to stop picking the same teams, but it is the first round, and it kind of seems like every series other than ours is almost a guarantee. All right.
Game 2 is tonight at 8 p.m. We'll see if Nashville can bounce back. Again, this is in Carolina. Huge game, I'd say. Okay, now to maybe the best series, second best series in the playoffs so far.
Yeah.
Florida versus Tampa Bay, the Battle of Florida, the Battle of the Sunshine State. Tampa leads 2-0. They won game 1 with a game-winning goal by Brady Point. It was the second in the third, with 1:14 remaining.
They tied it late too, didn't they?
Brady Point tied the game with 7 minutes left, won the game with 1 minute left. Unbelievable performance by him. Kucherov, 2 goals and an assist, and his return from a leg injury, which had him on the IR all season. I mean, they have an NFL cap right now. They have an NFL salary cap. They're paying probably like $100 million.
Yeah,
they offloaded his $10 million for the whole year. I don't know. We talked about this last week, but
I saw a tweet that said I think it was like $26 million in luxury tax, but they don't have to pay it because it's the playoffs. I'm like, exactly. What a cheat code this is.
They're going to have a tough time this summer. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean,
talk about cap hell. You can't get any worse than $20 million over.
Yeah. I will counter with this, though. If they win the cup, it'll be a lot easier to say, look, we can get rid of these pieces because we got 2 cups out of them.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so they lead 2-0. They won 3-1 empty net goal game 2 last night. The story of this series, in my mind so far, is Florida going with Chris Driedger in goal in the second game. He had 26 saves. he looked pretty good. The goals, he looked a little awkward, but Bobrovsky's been looking a little weird this year too. Chris Drieger's numbers in the regular season were better, but I question this move because of how good Bobrovsky is.
Right.
Well, they threw up
experience. Yeah.
They threw up his numbers, and this guy hasn't played since like 2018, and then he's only played like one playoff game, and it was in 2012 with Ottawa or something. It was ridiculous, the fact that this guy was even in net.
I couldn't believe the move. And even though he made
panic move.
Yeah. Even though he made 26 saves, he saved 26 out of 28 shots that he faced. I mean, your team outshot the other team and you lost. Like, it's tough to go back to Bobrovsky because then you're just the guy that flip flops, but I think you have to go back to him.
Who gives you the best chance to win?
Exactly.
If you're gonna switch to me with a guy that doesn't really have any playoff experience, why don't you go Spencer Knight?
Yeah.
Like, that was when I saw him in net, I'm like, what? The guy won 2 gold medals. Like, if you're gonna go with anyone other than Bobrovsky, you have to go with Bobrovsky. You have to say, look, dude, I'm sorry. Let me buy you dinner. Get back in net and try to get us back in the series.
Robert bounces back well too. No pun intended.
You have to put it in.
He's making $10 million a year to not play in the playoffs. I mean,
I know. He almost stole a series from Boston when we went to the Cup in 2019. I mean, I know it was a 6-game series, but every single game, it was like, how are we going to score in this game?
Yeah.
How do you pay a guy $10 million a year and say, look, you're not good enough playing playoffs? It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. And again, Chris Drieger, if you're going to step into the playoffs and earn your spot, you cannot lose a game on which your team outshot the other team. I mean, I know you can't tell a story just based on that, but
you can.
I don't think he earned it.
All right.
So game 3's on Thursday at 6:30. We'll see who they go with. I think it better be Bobrovsky.
Mr. Brady, who you got? You got a 2-goal advantage here for Tampa, but
Tampa Bay in 5.
Okay.
I think Florida ekes out 1, but they just you feel for them. I mean, they were playing great. Florida's playing great to wrap up the season and one of the best playing teams in hockey, but they're coming up against a juggernaut.
Yeah. I do want to point out that Christian picked Florida, so
yeah, I did.
Oh yeah, I did.
It's 7 though, so it's
a
still
house
alive.
divided.
It's still alive.
A house divided.
I say they put Bob back in. He's motivated. 2 shutouts in a row in Tampa.
To me, they already.
That out of all the series, that was the first time we picked different.
Yeah.
So I guess my hockey IQ is just higher than
wow, one of you is going to be right.
Yeah, it's true.
That's true.
That's the good thing about that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. Let's talk about another series that we split on, which is currently split at 1-1. The first game 1, was 4-3 Islanders in OT. Kyle Palmieri had 2 goals and the game-winning goal. Ilya Sorokin had 39 saves, but it wasn't enough to keep his job. Another crazy decision, though this one is made by Barry Trotz, a guy you trust. Game 2 was 2-1 Pens. Varlamov had 43 saves, but the first goal was one of the worst goals I've ever seen. It was basically a dump-in flip that he just missed with his butt.
That's age, dude. I mean, he was our goalie when we won the President's Trophy in 2010.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah,
right.
I mean,
it's tough to put an old guy in cold. Yeah.
Well, so the question is, like you said, you trust Trotz when he made the trade, right?
Yeah.
Or made the switch. Who made the switch for Florida? One of the winningest coaches of all time. So, I mean.
As I was saying that, I was like, it's Joe Quenneville.
No, I'm not like trying to say like, haha, I gotcha. I'm just saying like, even a good coach can make a horrific pick. Yeah, I don't know. Sorokin's been playing well all season, so I don't know why in a game that he wins, they switch.
Well, I think here's the difference in this one.
Unless he's hurt.
Unless he's hurt.
There's probably more behind the story.
Here's the more behind the story, I think. Trotz said at the beginning of the playoffs in the press conference, if we're going to win the cup, if we're going to go as far as we want, we're going to be a 2-goalie team, which is something I've never heard before and I thought was super weird. So there's no way they could have put Varlamov in thinking Sorokin didn't play well enough last game because he played great. I don't know. But Tristan Jarry deserves credit after a wonky start, 37 saves on 38 shots. Jeff Carter game-winning goal, but it was in the first period. But still, a goal for Jeff Carter. Pretty cool.
To me, it's like a 2-quarterback system in football.
Yeah.
It'll work until it doesn't, and then when it doesn't, it's like a really bad car crash.
Right.
So it's already not working. To me, the Pens dominated game 1 or game 2.
And what worries me about both of these, Matt, as someone who doesn't want to see these goalies have to sit the rest of the playoffs. Neither of the two guys played bad when they stepped in. Varlamov let in that bad goal, but he gave up 2 goals. They were both in the first period.
Yeah.
And same with Drieger, gave up 2 goals. So it's not like they cost them the game. So it's at this point, it's like they don't have any reason to go back to the guy that they went away from, except for the fact that he should have been playing all along.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a better goalie. There's just I don't get it. I don't get it. Unless he's injured.
Right.
We're never told about injuries.
Yeah, true.
I mean, what does that conversation even look like if they go back to Sorokin? Like, hey, I know you won game 1, but.
Well, I think it's easier for Trotz because he can say, this was our plan all along. You knew both of you were going to have to go in on short notice.
Trotz isn't going to have that conversation. It's going to be Mitch Korn.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he's taking the decision, which is another guy that you trust, that you have to trust.
I definitely trust Mitch Korn
because
without Mitch Korn, Holtby, we saw Holtby year 1 without Mitch Korn. He's a backup. He might play in the AHL next year. So,
all right. Well, game 3 is on Thursday at 7. That's a huge game. It's on the island, and again, Evgeny Malkin traveled, so maybe he plays. Huge addition if he's back. All right, and now we get to the marquee.
Hold up. Your dad's got a pick.
All picks.
Yeah, gee.
Picks. I jumped again.
Yep. So I'm going with the Isles, especially after what I saw game 1. I think game 1 tells you, except in the Washington series, tells you more about how the series is going to go than any other game in the NHL playoffs. But I think the Isles, I've learned to never discount them. And Jari, I just can't put my eggs in his basket. No way.
Yeah.
Can't see him carrying them that far. Remember how he started the year? My God.
Well, I've been to 1 hockey game in 2 years, and Jari stood on his freaking head and shut us out. And we left the game early to go gamble. So I have to put faith in him.
Was it home or away?
It was home.
Oh, yeah.
We went to the Caps Pens game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, yeah, first game in 2 years. This is exciting. So,
all right, how many games?
7. I think it's going all over. Yeah.
Although in game 1, I do know the Isles won game 1, but from what I saw, the Pens went up early, and I'm like, the Pens are winning the series.
Yeah.
So it's weird that we can both watch the same game and have different thoughts of like, well, this is where the Isles succeeded. This is where the Pens succeeded. Yeah. This is how I think. So that's what's so great about hockey is that it's not basketball, and we all know LeBron's going to be in the finals this year.
Yeah.
So
very true. But road team winning game 1 is very tough.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. Now we'll get to the reason anybody is watching, listening to this podcast. Bruins versus Capitals. It's tied 1-1. Actually, it's tied 0-1 to 0-1. 2 games go to overtime. Game 1, 3-2 Capitals. Nick Dowd is the game-winning deflection. Vitek Vanacek was hurt 5 minutes into the first period on a goal. He has a return yet. Craig Anderson relieved him. 22 out of 23. Looked great in game 1.
He did look good.
Honestly, looked good in game 2. The goals he let in, again, were weird, but he made a lot of saves that it was hard to expect him to,
Well, so like I said earlier, that second goal, I'm like, dude, you got to have it. But it's not his fault. Like his body just won't move as fast as he wants to. And then late in the third period, I'm texting my dad. I'm like, well, he's more than made up for it with some of these saves.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I knew they were going to score late in the game. You guys had that power play. And I was like, we cannot clear the puck.
Yeah.
And then Dylan just like half-assed throws it to the blue line and scramble in the net.
Pass goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's how you win in the playoffs is nasty, gritty goals. And you have a Hart Trophy winner on your team. Just digging at the puck. So
yeah, he's talking about Taylor Hall poked it in with 2:49 remaining to tie it. Game 2 was 4-3 Bruins in overtime. Guarded Hathaway, 2 goals. Your dad's favorite player. Anderson has 44 saves.
He does have a Hathaway jersey.
Yeah. Hathaway
his favorite player is
back-to-back
Wilson,
goals, actually.
It's so funny as a goalie, like listening to people do goalie analysis who aren't goaltenders that don't get the position. It's like, it sounds so snobby when a goalie says it, but if you've lived it, you know that nobody knows the position. I mean, Christian had a coach that was a hockey genius. This guy, Joe Lovell, who's coaching in the minors right now. And the guy knows everything about hockey, and he played, at a very high level. But he looked me in the eye and said, I don't know the first blank thing about goaltending. He's like, so I want you to be my goalie's coach and just take the goalies down to do whatever blank things goalies do. But at least he was intelligent enough to know what he doesn't know. Like last night I was in a men's league hockey game, and the whole locker room in Boston was just trade Tuukka, he's terrible. It's like, did you see that tip in that went in on him? He's terrible. You got to get rid of him, bench him, put the rookie in. It's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You cannot react to a tip that closely. He made the save. it just, had a spin on it and managed to still get in, but you can't react that fast, What I would say about Anderson is his rebound control.
Yeah.
That is a problem for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons the Bruins got so many shots on him is he kept giving it back to them for additional shots. And that one they jammed in, I mean, how many rebounds were there on that play? He just kept giving it back. That to me is you look at the two goalies and it's like, why can't people see this? But if you haven't played it, they don't see it,
That's true.
But he deserves a ton of credit for playing 4 games this year, stepping in and
no, I even told my dad after the second goal.
Yeah.
After the second goal, I'm like, this dude is playing lights out at 39 years old. It's incredible.
At 10 minutes left in the third, when you scored, it was like Craig Anderson's going to steal this game. It just seemed inevitable at that point.
I do want to point out, though, the refs are horrendous.
Yeah,
this is awful.
They're bad.
And this is coming from a Caps fan who you guys could shoot us in the head and it would be 4-on-4 hockey. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell is this?
I know.
I will say, they're bad, but the 4-on-4s is the issue. There were at least 3 in that game, 4-on-4s, that should have been Capitals power plays that I couldn't believe. Like Marchand hitting Mantha in the face with his stick.
That was the one that got. So
that was dumb.
The refs are bad, both sides.
Yeah.
But that one on Marchand, I'm like, how is this 4-on-4? How is it 4-on-4?
Just 20 seconds before he saw Mantha cross-check him and decided not to call it. But then when Marchand is just fiddling around with his stick, then he decides to take Mantha for something he already decided not to call.
Right.
Like that one I did not understand.
Even up stuff. Yeah.
And I'm always like, I try to see how the other side. So we're at a Clemson game and Darian Kendrick, who's now kicked off the team, is holding the receiver, and the Clemson fans like, "Oh, that wasn't a penalty." I'm like, "Dude, he's holding him." Like you. I try to see both sides, but
no, you're absolutely right.
It's rough. It's rough.
I agree with your analysis, and you just hope that the refs don't manage to ruin what is an awesome series.
Yeah.
This could be one of the best matchups we see the whole run. That the league sees between
me and Christian talked about it last episode that I think out of the entire playoffs, this and Colorado Vegas will be the best series. That's if
so many good ones. To this point, though, with fans coming back in the buildings and potentially having a few stadiums at 100% as we get into the second and third rounds, this is set up to be the best playoffs ever. And Sunday was maybe the best day of hockey I've ever watched in my life. It was unbelievable. Awesome. There were 2 overtime goals. 2 overtime goals. And by the way, the night before was overtime as well with the Bruins Caps. And then game 3 is the only game that didn't go to overtime. It was the best one of the 3.
Yeah.
Between Tampa and Florida. So it was just amazing.
For some reason, it just so happens that our 3 teams with the Bruins and Caps just have to be close games. We can't escape it. 11 straight. And this dates back to 2012. 11 straight 1-goal games in the playoffs. That's the longest streak in NHL history. Why does it have to be our teams? Why can't y'all win 6-0 and I can turn it off in the second and go out to eat? Like, what? It's ridiculous. I'm hoping tonight, honestly, if you guys win 4-0, it's like, all right, at least they're better versus you can get like a cheesy goal. And I'm like, we should have had that one.
Right.
So
the best part about this series so far, though, is the opposite of what you just said, though. It's 4 minutes of absolute Caps domination, and then 4 minutes of Bruins domination.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even that it goes back and forth. It's just like each team is holding their breath, whether like we're going to score in these next 4 minutes. Why is it not happening? Or like we're getting dominated right now. There's no way to win this series.
Right.
Like, it just keeps going back and forth like that.
It's like a prize fight.
It's insane.
The guy just gets back up. Like, what? What are you getting up for? And then he knocks the other guy in. Man.
All right, well, picking this one.
Yeah, we know you're picking the Bees.
This isn't
I already wrote it in.
This won't be popular, but I think Caps in 5.
No way.
In Matt's dreams.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think Bruins in 6.
6, okay.
I think.
Yeah. Huge. I will say the game tonight is a huge indicator of what this series is going to be like.
Right.
I mean, they say it. The series doesn't start until someone loses the game at home.
Right.
I think the series in this case doesn't start until. I mean, series already started.
I think it's going 7. So to me,
I think
the series starts in game 5.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, wouldn't surprise me at all.
I knew when y'all scored in overtime, I'm like, it was a big like letdown. Going up 2-0 is, I mean, obviously it's an obvious statement, but it's so much better. It's so much better.
It's already, Matt, it's already a little less than 70% of teams who win the first game win the series. So then it's got to be close to 90.
Right.
Yeah. It's like
I remember one team being up 3-0 and cheering them on at the Garden, and then watching Philly, our common nemesis, come from behind and beat us 4 straight. But yeah, no, and you're right, Matt. I mean, that could have easily been 2-0 Caps. It could have easily been 2-0 Bruins. That's what made that such a great mini series. You know, so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I texted my dad. I was like, "This sucks, but it's best of 5." So,
yeah,
start over tonight. Yeah, which is why this game is so important.
Yeah, and I think if we can steal one in Boston, then Game 5 it's the most important game ever because I mean that's a statistic that needs to be talked about. Winner of Game 5 wins the series like 87%.
Yeah.
So the year we won the cup, Game 5 we were tied with the Pens. I'm like, we have to win this game. Otherwise, we're going back to Pittsburgh. Game 6, it's over.
Yeah.
So
Matt, I want to talk about the Rats. This is a conversation I've had with a few people. Clearly, if you watch the games, you notice that there are more penalties in this playoffs than ever before, and there are way more 4-on-4s than I've ever seen. I mean, there are more 4-on-4s in each game than I remember seeing, like in any game.
There's more 4-on-4s Game 2 in our series than I've ever seen in the playoffs.
It's a pretty rare thing, actually.
Yeah,
like in the regular season, a 4-on-4, but it's happening almost 3 times every game. What do you think? Do you want there to be more penalties, or do you want to let them play in the play?
Let them play.
Yeah.
It's the whole point of the excitement of playoff hockey is that it gets more physical. It's more intense. I feel like you're just taken away from the game. Although, if it's a penalty, you have to call it. So it's like I feel like I'm wishy-washy here, but the refs in our series, especially, they're just not letting them play.
Right. I think everybody who's watched the series actually agrees with you, because we were even watching the Nesson broadcast, which is like I think it's undisputably the most biased broadcast in the entire world of sports. Jack Edwards is the most biased human being on the planet.
Jack Edwards loves Tom Wilson, and that's why when he scored Game 1, he scored Game 1. I'm like, I know Boston fans are heated right now. Anytime he scores, I'm like, it's awesome. So everyone else hates.
So everyone, even people who don't watch Nesson are aware of Jack Edwards, and including them are upset with the way that this series is being called so far. And I'm torn on this now because, like, sitting here, it's like, if you sign me up for more power plays, I'll say, yes, I love power plays. They're fun to watch in games that aren't mine. But then even when I'm watching games that aren't the Bruins, it's like guys are going to the box for these willy-nilly things. It's like, you feel, not only do you feel for the guy, it's like if they score on this power play, it's like it takes away from it kind of, because this guy doesn't deserve to be in the box. So when the penalties are being called, I'm like, this is so dumb. Stop the penalties. But then I'm like, also I love power plays. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. It's tough because you're like, oh my God, this is the 6th penalty of the period. This is ridiculous. And then you watch the replay, you're like, yep, that's a trip.
yeah.
So it's, it's tough to stay unbiased.
Yeah.
But you just want to see him play.
Yeah.
Especially in
playoff
playoff
job,
hockey.
but they're doing it poorly right
now.
Yeah. In playoff hockey, anytime you see a stoppage, you're like, come on, like. Anyway.
Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough because, I try to stay cordial with you. Like after you guys won, I'm like, GG, see you on Monday, see you on Wednesday. But I know if you guys beat us, I'm gonna like not text you for a week.
Our texts have been very cordial in the past week.
Yeah,
it's very like.
You guys are behaving.
We're being nice to each other.
That's nice. That's nice.
I know by the end of the series it won't be that way, but
well, the silence will tell the story.
Yeah. It'll be deafening for sure.
All right, let's get 3 picks for tonight's game, Bruins Caps, and then we'll wrap it up here. This is a good one, a good hour-long show. This is a fun episode. Matt, I'll let you start.
All right. I think, and it's tough to even say, I think the Bruins win tonight. They're going to carry momentum from game 2. And with our injuries, I think Lars Eller's coming back tonight, but we don't have Kuzi. We can't win a freaking face-off to save our life. We win 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Face-offs are so big in the playoffs. It goes without saying. I think the Bruins win tonight, and then we're just going to have to win 4 and 5. But, I think the Bees win tonight. I'm going to say another 1-goal game. I'm going to say 3-2.
Okay. I'll go next. I agree with your logic. I think as it stands right now, I'm predicting that game 4 will be the best game of the series, despite the first 2 being so good. I think game 4 is going to be the hardest fought. As close as the games have been, the first 5 minutes have not been close at all. The Capitals dominated the first 5 minutes of both games. I think tonight's the time that switches. It's going to be another close one, but I'm going to say 3-1. No empty net.
So they break the longest streak in NHL history.
What did I write?
What do you think? Oh.
Yeah. So I kind of think this exactly the same way. I wrote the same thing down before he said it, but I think Tuukka, I always have a goalie perspective, but he's been under a tremendous amount of heat, unwarranted, as I said before. I think he comes out, he typically responds with, like, if not a shutout, he does. He usually stands on his head. Nobody shuts out the Caps. So I'm going 3-1 as well.
Okay.
But I think that I do think the Caps are going to win 4 and 5.
Huh. Game 5 is going to be, if it goes back split, game 5, it's hard to pick against the Caps in game 5 going home.
But wait, I said Bruins in 6. I can't say 4 and 5.
Yeah,
so
you can't.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think if you guys win 3 and 4, it's a wrap. I think we just give everything. We just waste our gas tank on 5, and then we have nothing left for 6. But
as much as I want it to happen, it's extremely hard to believe that either team will win both of these games.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
All right. Let's
I love playoff hockey's the greatest thing ever until your team goes to overtime and you're just like, this sucks. I hate it. Why am I putting myself through this?
You say that about overtime. Overtime is the worst invention ever when it's your team.
No, but if we're playing Edmonton in the regular season, like 3-on-3, I'm like, this is awesome. I get to see McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, if they score, you're like, oh, that sucks. We got tomorrow.
Right.
You lose in overtime. I was devastated. It was like I got broken up with.
Same on Monday. Same on Saturday. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it's insane because you're just holding your breath until the goal goes in.
Yeah.
Tuukka's stat in playoff overtime games?
No.
He's 8-3.
Wow.
You think of
Good
him,
stat.
but when I heard I thought he had a losing record because all you hear about is when he loses. You know, if he lets in that overtime goal, it's all people talk about.
Those wins are racked up against Toronto. I can guarantee you
they
that.
are. That's exactly what
They are definitely Toronto. Like, you take Toronto away, it's probably 500.
Because Frederick Anderson's overtime playoff record has to be 2-11.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Although I want to add one last point. If we still had Braden Holtby, I would say us in 5 because he could go 0-11 and then he plays the Bruins 4 games and he doesn't lose.
If for some reason we played the Canucks 5 times this year, they would have won all 5. I don't think there's any way we can beat Brady.
Owns us.
He won 15 straight over like 5 years.
And there's nothing worse. And I wanted to make this point. The Capitals are already hard to play against, but because they just clog the neutral zone, you can't get entry on them. It's the most frustrating to watch, and you would never know that because you never have to play against the Capitals.
I know it when I play the Pens.
Yeah.
Or we play the
Pens.
Pens.
There is nothing worse than playing a goalie that you just feel like you can't beat. And that's what I get in the Vasilevsky series. That's what I think we're going to see at times with Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's some goalies that you just watch them play and you're like, there's no way they score.
It's not going to beat them. Yeah.
You know what goalie that was for me? It was Matt Murray.
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating because to me, and Mr. Brady, you can correct me at being a goalie. To me, I'm like, lift the puck. That's all you got to do. His glove is But, I mean, when you watch him, when you just consistently watch him year after year, his glove is horrendous.
Yeah.
That's why Jari took the starting spot from him. But to me, I'm like, just lift the friggin' puck.
Yeah, no,
that's
he takes the bottom away. He plays small and he plays low. He does.
Yeah.
Plus the vast majority of shots are low.
But you just knew he was going to beat. So
he was so good in those playoffs. So. Yeah. All right, yeah. Let's do the trivia question, then we'll get out of here.
We have a trivia question for our guest. This one's to me, it's a softball, mainly because I know it. But
it's a win situation here for me.
You probably know it. Who was the first NHL player to score 50 goals in a season?
I'm gonna go with Rocket Richard.
It was Rocket Richard, and it's a little bit of a trick question because Gordie Howe is probably the other answer that is most commonly used. Then I have a backup question that's a lot harder.
All right.
The first NHL team to win back-to-back Stanley Cup titles.
The first team to win back-to-back.
I have 2 answers here.
It could
and you
got to
go way back.
I'm going to go Toronto.
It was not Toronto.
Ottawa Generals?
It was the Ottawa Senators Generals back then, 1921 and 1922.
Do I get partial credit for a second guess?
Partial credit, yeah.
There was only 6 teams, so that improved my odds to 33%. But
that was before the Bruins existed.
Yeah.
In 21-22, there were 3 teams then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't even the Stanley Cup. I think it was the Montreal. It was like the Montreal Memorial Cup back then. I don't even think it was the Stanley Cup. But all right, that's all I got. I mean, we could talk about Bruins Caps for hours. So
that was a fun one.
That was. Thanks for having me, boys. It was fun.
Absolutely. You earned it.
Yeah, you did earn it.
Well, I tipped my cap to your brothers. They were really good, and I was sweating it out every time I played either of them. So
Zach would call me, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up? How was work?" He's like, "It was good." So McDavid's not scoring for me. I'm like, what? Classes are going well too. Thanks.
It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
I was driving him nuts.
We're hearing
him down 10 points.
He's been working at home, so we set up an office here in the basement. I would come down here and see sticky notes on his work computer about fantasy hockey.
About who to trade or who.
Yeah.
You're like, it's like, how's work? Yeah, I called out today because I gotta figure out this trade.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was all
next year
to spend time with you guys. So
next year we're gonna pick a better I mean, the winner's gonna get on our show. I think we're gonna keep that, but we got to think of something. I mean, Christian, neither of us were incentivized. I don't know about you, but
yeah.
It was like, we have finals. I have this paper to write. I don't really care about my lineup.
Yeah, you led the league in points scored by guys you didn't dress.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. You look at it, your below the line stats are like through the roof. Like, why did he play like that?
And that was Zach. He's like, dude, your goal, Volpe had like 11 points. I'm like, I haven't even logged on the app today. I don't even know what you're talking about. All right. Tonight, game of the year, obviously, Bruins Caps. Me and Christian will be texting. See y'all next week. Thank you, Mr. Brady, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
See ya.
And see y'all later.